U.S. Representative Debbie Wasserman Schultz, who was chairwoman of the Democratic National Committee when young party staffer Seth Rich was murdered, is condemning what she says are attempts to exploit his death for political gain. The things that the right wing, and some of the left wing, frankly, including my opponent, have spewed are vile and disgusting and offensive, the Broward/Miami-Dade County Congresswoman said in an interview with the Sun-Sentinel. She said it should stop. I want to say that Seth's parents' wishes should be honored and respected, to stop dragging his name through the mud and politicizing what was a horrible, unfortunate, sad murder, and the death of someone who was deeply committed to serving his country and help making the world a better place, Wasserman Schultz said. A tweet this week from political operative Roger Stone, who is close to President Donald Trump, prompted Wasserman Schultz to comment about Rich. She hasn't wanted to talk about Rich to avoid giving credence to conspiracy theories surrounding his murder and to honor the wishes of Rich's parents. Rich, 27, was murdered last summer, on July 10 in what police have described as a botched robbery. Roger Stone, an informal advisor to President Donald Trump, said in an August 1, 2017 tweet, "There is a link between Seth Rich and Imran Awan." Rich was a Democratic National Committee staffer who was murdered in 2016. Awan was an information technology aide to U.S. Representative Debbie Wasserman Schultz and other members of Congress. She was DNC chairwoman when Rich was murdered. She said Stone's tweet was vile and disgusting. Anthony Mann, less than 2 weeks later, on July 22, WikiLeaks released thousands of stolen emails from the Democratic National Committee. U.S. intelligence services have concluded that Russia was responsible for the hacking of the DNC as part of its attempts to meddle in the U.S. presidential election. The damage was immediate. Some of the emails showed Democratic Party staffers had favored Hillary Clinton over Bernie Sanders for the party's presidential nomination, a revelation that forced Wasserman Schultz's resignation as National Democratic Party chairwoman. Conspiracy theorists have suggested without evidence that Rich, and not Russian hackers, might have provided explosive DNC emails to WikiLeaks, and that he might have been murdered as part of a cover-up. The most prominent purveyors of that theory have been Fox News personality Sean Hannity and Internet and radio conspiracy theorist Alex Jones. The issue was back in the news this week, when an investigator who had been hired by a Republican donor to solve the Rich murder said in a lawsuit that President Donald Trump and his former press secretary, Sean Spicer, played a role in shaping a false story that appeared on Fox News about the case. Fox has retracted the story and denied it was originally published to distract people from the Russia investigation. Trump's press secretary, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, said it was completely untrue that the White House had any role in shaping it. Also this week, Stone entered the fray. The Fort Lauderdale resident's political activities date back to his work for former President Richard Nixon. Stone was in contact last year with Guccifer 2.0, the person or organization involved in hacking the Democratic National Committee last year. Multiple news reports have cited U.S. intelligence agencies have concluded Guccifer 2.0 is connected to Russian intelligence. Weeks before the hacked emails of Clinton campaign chairman John Podesta were released, Stone ominously predicted on Twitter that Podesta would soon be in the barrel facing scrutiny. He's denied that he colluded with Russians on behalf of Trump or that the Russians meddled in the U.S. election on Twitter this week. Stone wrote, "Fact, Wasserman Schultz IT consultant Awan was partying with Seth Rich the night of his murder. Eat it," at The Atlantic. He offered no evidence to support his statement. Stone didn't immediately reply to an email Friday inquiring about his tweet. Imran Awan, an information technology aide to Wasserman Schultz and multiple members of Congress, was arrested on a bank fraud charge. Wasserman Schultz said in the interview Thursday that Awan never worked for the DNC. Most of the attempts to connect the Rich murder to WikiLeaks have come from people on the conservative end of the political spectrum. But it's gotten some backing from people on the political left, including supporters of Sanders who don't like Wasserman Schultz. Tim Canova, who challenged Wasserman Schultz in the 2016 Democratic congressional primary and is running again in 2018, raised the issue several times earlier this year. A video posted on Canova's Facebook page in January shows him walking around the Washington, D.C., neighborhood where Rich was killed. He said there were reasons to doubt it was a robbery and suggested it could have been something more sinister. In June, after reporters asked him about Rich, Canova took down the Facebook video and said he would refrain from talking about the case out of respect to the wishes of Rich's family. On Friday, he said via text message that it's funny how she and her supporters have been talking more about Seth Rich than I have been. Canova added later by email that he has refrained from talking about Rich recently. Since Seth's parents requested silence on his murder, I have complied with their request. He said Wasserman Schultz, who answered questions about the Fox News story and Stone tweet on Thursday, was continuing to bring it up apparently to try to score political points and in disregard of the wishes of his family. He said killings in Russia of journalists and dissidents under mysterious circumstances, some shot in the back at close range just like Seth Rich, raise questions about whether the Russians played any role in the murder in order to bring negative attention on the DNC and the U.S. political system. Canova said Wasserman Schultz's criticism of him suggests that she's doing so simply to deflect attention from her own bizarre statements and suspicious actions related to the investigations of Awan.
When you bring a guy like Joe Concha in on a Friday, you got to come up with at least two topics, and we think we came up with one. CNN has spent most of this past week breathlessly reporting every detail about a white truck they believe President Trump sent to keep the media from watching him golf at Mar-a-Lago.
The president also got back on the golf course, but not that we can prove it because a giant white box truck blocks reporters.
What's up with the white truck blocking his golf swing?
This is a White House that seems particularly sensitive, for whatever reason, about images of President Trump on the golf course.
This truck showed up out of nowhere, and we don't know where it came from.
Now back to that mysterious truck blocking the president's golf swing from the cameras.
One of the advantages of having your own golf course is you could also get a guy to get in a truck to block that golf course from the road. What was the obsession there? I mean, how could they focus like? Not only are his tweets programming the entire network, but so are his non-actions.
We ever think about what was in the box truck? Could there have been the ice cream that brings 2 scoops of ice cream? Remember, that was a CNN report that Trump has 2 instead of 1. Or maybe how many Diet Cokes he's having. It's delivering Diet Cokes. So maybe that should be the investigation. Look, CNN is not the network that it once was, under the Aaron Browns and the Bernard Shaws. What's a big story this year, Brian, that almost no one's talking about? The ISIS caliphate being decimated in Iraq and Syria. They've lost 98% of their territory. They once had 45,000 fighters 2 years ago. They have less than 1,000 now. If there was ever a story that was in CNN's wheelhouse, given what they've done in the past in terms of their Middle East reporting, this is it, the ISIS story. And I don't see too much coverage on that, and I see crap, and this is crap, these kinds of focus right now from a once proud network that shouldn't be covering this sort of stuff. It's ridiculous.
But, Joe, they do have an agenda. They are obsessed with destroying him. It's coming from the upper echelons of CNN, no matter who owns them. And they've gotten some stories wrong because of that. Anthony Scaramucci, for one, links to the Russian government. They had to apologize for that.
Apologize, and they fired 3 reporters that were on that they basically just had hired. One actually won a Pulitzer. Gone. And then, of course, a couple of weeks ago, that WikiLeaks story that they had. They said that Donald Trump Jr. and the Trump campaign had information 10 days before everybody else. It turned out it was already in the public domain, and that's because they relied on unnamed sources that also duped CBS and NBC. They should reveal who that source was, because that source was purposely putting out false information, whoever that may have been, a political operative or even a lawmaker. And the Washington Post did something right there, Brian. They asked for the document, actual evidence to see if Donald Trump Jr. got that or not. It took 2 minutes for them to get it. CNN went to air with it. So, I don't want to stomp on CNN and say, like, this is a bad network and everybody's bad there. I think Jake Tapper does some good stuff. They have good reporters, great producers.
Alison Camerata is my female idol.
We just saw Dave Briggs, right, on there as well, who's on Fox and Friends. They have some good people there. But when they keep doing stories like this, it destroys the credibility of a very once proud network. Get back to the guys you used to be. Focus on news and stop focusing so much on taking down a president.
Last thing, prediction. In 2018, will there be less anti-Trump and more balance on the two? Knock him down when they think he's wrong, but also note the stock market, the economy, the passage of the tax reform. See more of a balance?
The toothpaste is already out of the tube. You know what they say about putting toothpaste back in the
happen.
tube, or you can't unring a bell. We're already down that path. CNN's made a business decision to go negative on Donald Trump. The problem is they lost audience in prime time from the previous year. Think about it, 2017, a chaotic, great year for news in terms of consumers bringing it in, and they actually lost audience. That's very hard to do.
Joe Concha, it's very nice of you to come in on this beautiful Friday.
It's gorgeous out, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is.
Gonna go swimming.
Yeah, you definitely should wear a coat, okay? And don't lick a pole.